All right, hello everyone, and for welcome to our third event of the day. And for this workshop today, we are joined by our friend Ibrahim from CSHub, and we are going to have an introduction to React. I know React is a framework that a lot of you uh, is excited to work with. So without any further ado, I will friend Ibrahim here on the screen with us. Hi Ibrahim, how are you doing?
Hello, Steve. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you. Could you introduce yourself for maybe like the folks in the watching us right now who don't know you, and maybe give us a quick introduction to React. Like, what is React?
I'm a fourth year student. I have experience in front development. React is just simply a UI framework, library more like, and it helps you build complicated UIs. As over time, UIs have become more complicated, and so far React is the quite a popular choice for companies to build their websites.
All right, that sounds like a lot of fun. So, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Then I will start sharing my screen. Let me figure out how to do that. Share screen. Okay. And share. Cool. All right. So everyone. Hey y'all, I am here. So this is the Intro to React workshop. I am Ibrahim, which is the person leading this workshop. I will be taking you through the Intro to React. An overview of the actual workshop is I'll tell you what React is. I'll just let you tell you what is defined as on their site. I'll give you a motivation to why React is important. I'll give you a simple JavaScript crash course. A simple React example, components, and the React lifecycle, state, hooks, and finally, I will code a simple to-do list live if time allows. So let's get started. So what is React? This is just copied from the React org site. It is a declarative, efficient, and flexible JavaScript library for building user interfaces. It lets you compose complex UIs from small and isolated pieces of code called components. And that's it. And as we go along through the actual workshop, we will see this more and more. So, motivation. Why should we even care about this tech, React? And another question is, why even bother with a framework? We could just use native, simple HTML and CSS and JS. Why bother with React at all? And it's simple. Sites have the constant requirement for a better user experience requires complicated user interfaces, and to build them, it's not easy. So we have to use a tool like React to make that development much easier, much more maintainable, much more scalable. Because remember, you're probably not the only one building the UI. You're in a team building it. So React, as well as other frameworks, allow that flexibility. And just two examples of sites that do use React are Facebook, obviously because they built the technology, as well as Netflix themselves. Okay, and then again, finally, almost every company is now using some sort of a UI framework library due to the rise in complexity UIs. And there is some evidence that ones who don't use a framework end up making one their own in-house anyway. So might as well just use something that is off the shelf and proven to work, such as React in this workshop. So let's start. Okay, simple JavaScript crash course. And also, small note: feel free to ask questions. I am happy to answer them. Just during the workshop. Yeah, that's all. Let's do the crash course. So, again, the React is JavaScript. So I'll give you a simple crash course just to get you up to speed. Simple here. A variable can be modified. So we can declare a variable like here. Let x equals to 1, and then we can modify it over time, x equals 2, and now we set it to a string, hello world. Now there's a different type called a constant, as can be seen here. Constant x equals 1, and constant y equals by world. You cannot do this. This is, as you can see, because it's a constant, you cannot modify it again. Additionally, last thing here, in this slide anyway, we have a console.log. This is just a print function, like print in Python or system.out.println in Java. It just prints the variable. Next slide. Functions. We have a function called hello, and declared like this, which will output hello, and it can be called like this. This is the output. This is the output. Now we can advance this function to make it accept a parameter like this, the parameter name, and we can do console.log hello / name or comma name, and this is the output. And finally, this is another way of declaring a function. Const hello equals name, and then arrows, and then the brackets, and then the content of the function. Lists. So we let x equals a list. This is how you can empty one. You can push or append, whatever term you like, but the method is not push. And then we console log it. We can see that one was pushed onto the list. We can also declare a function here, const y equals 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we can do a map function. The map function goes to each single element, and in this case, we'll multiply it by itself, and then return that array to constant z. And so if we console.log z, we have 1, so 1 times 1 is 1, 4, because 2 times 2 is 4, 9, again, 3 times 3 is 9, and again, same idea about 16, 4 times 4 is 16. And we'll see other functions like these, but we will test them as we go through them. Finally, objects. We can declare an object like this, const x equals the object, so brackets. We can set a key name to Ibrahim, and then we can console.log it, and that will give us this. This is wrong. Just this, and then we can declare a non-empty object like this, and then again we can just console.log it, and this is the output. Cool. Okay, that's the end of the crash course. Let's actually look into React. Again, feel free to ask me questions that you'd like. So simple render function. That's it. So we have a hello function that returns, and you can see here it's actually quite different. It's actually quite different. Usually in JavaScript, you'll never see this is what you call an HTML tag. This is quite new. So why is it here? Simple. This is Java extended. This is how React templates or renders your actual your actual views. So as can be seen here, we are returning a header1 tag with the content hello Lassand. Then this is our main app, and we are returning this actual element or this function in here. And so when you actually render it, you will have hello Lassand. Now there is a limitation. Yeah. So this again explains it. Return the header element and the hello component. Yeah. Now, one issue here is that we can only return, or we can only say hello Lassand. Can we potentially expand it to say anything we want, and we can. Remember, parameters, that's functions, and I'll show you how to do it in React. Here is what we have. We have props. So what's props? Let's study the actual code. So prop stands for properties, and properties is an object, and it's a mechanism for sending information downstream to a component, or in this case, a function. And as can be observed, we are accessing the name key, and we're putting it around these curly brackets. And this is just React's way of templating data inside these HTML tags. And remember, this is also part of JSX, JavaScript Extended. Finally, we can see here while we kept the actual function name, we now have to add name equals a York, and this is basically to feed this property key. Okay, cool. So that's our simple function. Let's now look at a component, and this is kind of the main heart, the main soul of React. So you would so a component is a class, and the way you do it is that you define a class. In this case, class my component, and you would extend it with the component class. That's basically it. And obviously, every class has a constructor. So let's make a constructor here. Constructor props. Remember, props keeps coming up. And then we call super props. What does this mean? If you recall from your object-oriented programming courses, you have the idea of inheritance. You can inherit just stuff from a class. And again, this is the idea of extends. However, to do that in the constructor, you always have to call the constructor of the class you inherited. And that's basically what we're doing here. So very similar to what you've done in Java or even Python, because Python also has OOP. Okay, so again, this is the main bread and butter of React, and it is the component lifecycle. So there's many between, but we'll look at four main ones: initialization, mounting, updating, and rendering. Three words. So the first one, initialization, mounting, updating, / rendering, and then finally unmounting. And let's cover them in detail. So again, the constructor is the initialization. This is grabbing stuff from the props and declaring any state that you might need. More on the state stuff later. We will cover it. We then have component did mount. This is mounting. This is just setting up any stuff that you want to do. Once you mount, that's basically it. Honestly, that's the idea. Then you have rendering, and this is called every time you update something, whether in the state or the properties. And finally, unmounting. This runs when the component is removed from the page, and so it runs anything to clean stuff up. That's really what it's there for. So what's state? I mentioned it several times, but like, what the hell is it? Let's cover that. Also, feel free to ask any questions that you'd like. Okay. So, passing props down components usually isn't enough. Sometimes you need. Sometimes you want to maintain state, numbers, strings, lists, objects in your current component, and you want to modify it during its life cycle. So that's where state comes in. Again, we'll look at a simple example. So this is what we're looking at. We're looking at a button, and as you click it, it increments by 1. So let's see how that goes. So in here, we declare the state, and as you can see, it's an object with the key count set to the default of 0. And again, as you can see, this is done in the initialization phase. Then we have a helper function called increment, and what this does is it will update the actual state. The proper way of doing it is that you call this referring to this class dot set state, and then you pass in an object with the count as a key, and then you just increment it. This dot data count currently plus 1, simple increment. We then bind this function to this class. And then finally, we declare the actual button itself. It's button with class name button increment. This is supposed to be capital, so it's supposed to be camel case. The N should be capitalized. So is the C, and as you can see here, we have on click this dot increment. And every time that you would click the button, you would call this function, and it would increment it, and thus resulting in this behavior. Cool. So let's now look at an example that has both a state and a life cycle with it. So simple timer. We just update the actual time every second. That's basically it. So let's see how it's done. So in here, we declare a state, again, as always. However, this time the key is called date, and we create a new date. This is a web API. It comes from JavaScript, and it just creates a new date of the now, of the now time. We then on component did mount, we create an interval, and basically an interval simply every 1,000 milliseconds or 1 second, it will run this function, this dot tick. So let's see what this function does. This function takes sets states of the date, and it creates a new date. Remember, date when called gives you the current time, and so every second we are getting the new time. Finally, we just render it. So we access the state and access the date, and then just get the hours, minutes, and seconds. Finally, when we unmount the actual component, one issue that could happen is that if you don't, is that essentially this timer will run forever, and it's not a good thing, because that's a performance problem. And so this is simply just cleaning up after it. And so it will clear the interval. It will just simply stop the actual interval, stop the actual timer. That's it. Cool. Okay, let's now look at hooks. Hooks are a pretty interesting concept, and you will, at least so far I'm using them much more often than the components. In fact, almost exclusively, and you will see why. So hooks are another way of representing a component without needing to declare a class, and essentially it gives you access. It gives you access to React's powers like state, lifecycle, without having to go through all the declaring a class sub stuff. It gives you almost like a direct API to React's powers. So let's look at the example. If you remember, we made that increment count example where we click a button and it goes up by 1. Let's make that into a hook and see what happens, or to see the code. It's much more simpler, eh? Sorry. So let's see what's happening here. We are calling the useState function. This is a function. This is a hook function, and what it does is first you pass it the default or starting value, and it returns to you two things in an array. Two things. It returns to you the count. This is or basically the actual value of that state. And the second thing that it returns to you is a function that you can use to modify that state. So let's look at our little button here. What we do here is that we essentially just put the count from here to here, simple. And then we have a function that on click, we just simply call the set count and increment the count by 1. This simply, again, just replace this little thing, just simply does that exact same thing we did before. It sets the count. Let's now look at the clock example. So a bit more complicated than the last example, but still like much more simpler. So same idea. We use state. This is a hook function. This is our default or starting value. This is the value of the state, and this is the function to edit the actual state. Now let's actually look at useEffect. This is an interesting function or a function. Sorry. So useEffect is what I would call quite similar, or at least it does exactly what the mounting and unmounting does. useEffect it starts by creating the actual timer. It sets an interval that will just simply every 1 second will update the date with the current date. And then we return this little function that, simply put, when the clock hook component unmounts, gets removed from the page, this gets called, and then it's just basically cleaning things up. Finally, again, same idea here. We just simply take the date value and get hours, minutes, and seconds. So hooks, in essence, is being able to use React states lifecycle without needing to use components or classes, really. So then it brings up an important question. What's the point of using components or classes? There isn't much of a point. At the moment, hooks can do mostly everything that components can do, and some things and the some things it can't are just one-off life cycle methods, which aren't the major ones that I showed you. So TLDR, just use hooks from now on. And for the to-do list thing that I will be coding up, I'll just be using hooks and nothing else. Yeah. So a more sophisticated code example, which is the to-do list. This is it. So we have this little thing. To item 3, we edit. Yeah, and then we can also remove stuff. So that's basically the thing we're doing. I guess let's actually start. So before I start coding it up, I will explain, though, the overview of the code. So we'll have 3 hooks. We'll have the main one, app, which handles all of the business logic, as well as storing the actual to-dos, as you can see here. So these will be stored in the app hook. Then we'll have two more hooks or components. So two more hooks. Steve, yes, yes, they do. So hooks do allow much more, a much better, a much better reusability than components. So that's also actually a much another reason why to use hooks. And thank you for bringing that up. But yeah, like in conclusion, yes, it's hooks do give you better. You can like declare a hook, or sorry, a function that uses hooks, and just use that in any function that you is used, or that's useful. So back to this one. The other two components that you want to do, or that will sort of is a form and the actual to do item. Form will handle again adding stuff, and the to do will handle showing the actual to do, as well as handling editing and deleting. Okay, without a further ado, let's start. So let me just get up and ready here. Okay, so let's start. I'm gonna open up my VS Code, and again, like I wouldn't say like feel free to code along. What I would advise is just kind of understand how I'm approaching building the actual components. So let's just do a folder. We'll call it our React workshop. Oops. Get back here, and now a way to actually start or open a React app is you could use the create React app command line. So you do npx create React app and my app. Please work. Okay, it's not working. So here's what we can do. We can do npm init. Yeah, and we can do npm install create React app. This will take its lovely time. Oh, nice. That's fast. And then we can do npx create React app my app. How are we on time? We have half an hour left. That's good. Good time for me to build this app and take questions. It's built? No. Taking its lovely time. Hell yeah. Let's start hacking, as the app says. So we'll open up our code. Nicely done. And I'm going to just do some small little things that don't matter. I'm going to add some CSS just to make things easier. So I'm going to just remove. So I'm going to just go here. Let us move all of this, because I don't care about this. And then we'll do go to here, and then we'll just change. Oops. Okay, confirm it works by just doing. Sorry. Let us run this application. So we'll do it by this terminal, npm start. I'll just do this, and when it runs up, where is it? Yes, I would like to. Here it is. Cool. Okay. So here is our application. Okay, hello world. So it works. Just to kind of confirm that works. Let's bit my tongue. Let's build the application. We're going to start with the following. We'll work out the logic in the app component app function first. Okay. So let's make a hook. So const, we have the use state, and we're going to call, and the default value is just a simple array. We'll call it to-dos and set to-dos. Okay. So, okay. Okay, so let's actually start. I'm going to I just my reference material. Okay, so let's do the following. We want to do the following functions. We want to add a to do, edit one, and delete one. Okay, so let's do that. So let's make a function just called add. We will add a function call, and we'll call it item or task, because that's what that is. And we shall do the following. We will do set to-dos, and we will basically make it so we will basically so in this array we will set to-dos to what they are plus this task. And so basically what this does is it's like to-dos, the array plus this new task. That's literally all I'm doing here. Okay. Let's now do. Sorry, actually no, I'm wrong. Sorry, because to-dos is an object. So we have an array of objects. ID. ID. Yes. Let me import something else. I'm gonna npm install something quick. Npm install a library called unique ID, and basically gives you an actual ID that's unique. It's pretty self-explanatory. Let us import it here. And what happened? No, that's wrong. Yeah. So unique ID and the name. Name of the task is task. Cool. Okay. Yeah. We're good. Let's now do edit. So function edit. Now edit though takes two parameters: the ID and the new name. We have to know what task is being edited. Now, how do we approach finding the ID? Here's one way to do it. You could do the following. You could do this. You you set the index the following. You would take the to-dos list and you would call the find index function, in which you'd pass a function for, again, essentially every to-do in there. You would look for the one that has an ID equal to the one that we're looking for. That's it, basically. So this find index function takes in a function that runs. Basically, like this function just returns a false or truth, and it checks the following condition. Is this task ID equal to what I want? And it goes through each one until it finds the first one and returns that. Now that we have the index that we want, we just do, now here's actually one important thing that I want to mention. Avoid editing the to-dos, avoid editing the actual array. Don't edit this. Don't do this. Don't do this. Okay? No. Instead, no. Instead, make a copy of it. It allows the app to flow better. So let's do that instead. Do const new or to use copy equals sure. Okay, so we can do the following. So const to do's copy and just this to do's. This is just simply allowing us to make a copy of the array. Copy of the array. Okay. And then now that we have, now this is the new state that we want, we would then just simply call set to do's copy. Cool. All right. So add is done, edit is done. Let's do delete. Function delete, or actually, sorry, remove. Delete is a reserved keyword in JavaScript. That's why it won't work. This function will take the ID of the task, or sorry, the ID of the to-do, and we shall do the following. We're going to once again, actually, no, sorry, not once again. We're going to call the filter function on the array. Let's see how it works. So to-dos copy is equal to to-dos dot filter, and then we take here to do. And what filter does is it will go through each array and it will check, does this condition apply? And if it does apply, it's going to keep it in the array. Once the filter is done, it will return that new array and set it as to-do's copy. So the condition is this: go through each array, or sorry, go through each to-do and keep every to-do that has an ID not equal to ID itself. So as to Steve's question, it's minimal. It's very minimal. And one thing that you'll see in once you kind of go into more state management, you want to avoid editing the actual state. It allows it to flow better. Think of almost kind of like each state is a trying to think of. Think of each state as kind of a time interval. So the state changes. So instead of changing the state, make a new one, edit it, and then set as a new one. Generally speaking, though, the to-dos arrays extremely small that making a new one is not going to affect memory usage. It's so tiny. And again, additionally, as you go into more complex state management, this applies the same way. So the state is not being deleted. Where it's sort of is when we do the set to dos, it's being replaced. So essentially, again, in just this function, we make the copy. That's it. In just this function, the copy is being made. Does that answer the question? Cool. I actually will look into it like more often and understand it, like if it's better to copy or not. You didn't do the actual editing of the to do in the edit function. I think to do, I mean, you are correct. I did not. So MA is correct. I did not do the editing. So think of that. I will. I'll do it now. So we do to-dos, copy, and we has the index, and to index.name equals new name. Thank you. So that's actually done, because I forgot. Let's kind of go back to this one. So I will re-explain it. So essentially, what's happening here is that we are filtering it. We're going through the entire array and checking, is the current do ID not equal to this ID? If that's true, remember, it will be true for every to do except one. Keep it, which means that this new to do will be whatever the length of this is minus 1. Okay? And then we do what we just did before, set to dos as to dos copy. Cool. All right. Now I want to add one mention here. The app function will not call these methods, and you will see. So I think this component or this function is done. Let's now actually work on our form. Okay. Let me find it in my reference material. Okay, here. So go here, do function form da. Okay. So we'll pass a function into this form. Okay. So far we've passed. Sorry, in my examples, I've passed strings and numbers. Now we will pass a function, okay, and we'll see how that works. So let's go here. We're gonna do form add is equal to add. Remember, this is a function, okay? We are passing in a function. And what we'll do is just simply this. We are going to first kind of create the actual form thing. So it's going to be, again, a form. You see here. Form, which has a class name equals form. ID of task, a form, that's it basically. And it will have an input of type, type equals text. Now let's do the following. So we are going to make a state. This state basically just keeps track of the value being inputted into the form. Okay, so let's do simply const use state empty string and name set name. Basically, okay, And basically, this just the value of this input will be just name. And on change, it basically means if the input detects that we are pushing something, we're going to be calling. We will call the following function, which is function handle change. Takes an E. E basically is an event, and we will be doing this. Const value equals E dot target dot value. This is basically like when we type something, this is this thing. Okay, and then we will do the following. We will add. Remember, actually, sorry. Before I do anything, let me. Yeah, actually, no. Let me add. So add this. So we're gonna be doing. Okay. props. Props dot add. Call it, and we will pass in the value name. Then we shall set the name to empty. No, that's wrong. Okay. Set name to the value. What I just did was submit, not the handle change. Okay. Now we're going to create a new function called handle submit. Before we do that, let's just put this where it belongs, which is the input. So on change, call the handle change function. Let's confirm. It works. Awesome. Now let us create the function called handle submit, which does the following. When we hit, sorry, actually, it needs to know the. Actually, no, it does. Sorry. So what this does is basically when we kind of like type something and hit enter, it will take that and add it to the actual list. Now, there's one thing we have to do is we have to do this e.prevent default. What this does is basically without it, if you can see here, hitting enter will refresh the page. We want to avoid that. So this makes it so it does not refresh. Save. Okay, yeah, so it now doesn't anymore. Cool. Let's now do props. So access our props. Call the add function that we have in the app function. Sorry, call the add function that we have in here, and we will pass it in without name, which is this. Okay. Now there's one tiny issue. Just add this here. I misspelled and submit. I'm terrible. Okay. It doesn't do anything, does it? That's because we're not showing the actual list. What's E? So E is an object, and E is basically the event. That's what it is. You can see it in here and in here, and it's a thing for like just like anything input wise. Handle changes, submit. You have an E. That's what it is. Okay, let's actually do a bit more. One more thing. Let us display our to-dos. Now, let's actually go into a thing called conditional formatting here. And what it means is, essentially, under condition, render this. Under another condition, render that. That's it. Let's do it in our app, okay? So, in our return here, we're going to do the following. We'll do if the length, if the to-dos dot length is bigger than 0, essentially if there's something in there, do this, okay? Else, do this, okay? For us, we are going to be rendering this here, okay? So only the form. Now, what about the actual to-dos? Let us make the to-dos now, shall we? So I'm going to go up and away, and we're going to do that right now. So function to-do props. Okay, and this is going to be a return list item element, where it's going to be, and remember it's in, so it's props.name. This is going to be surrounded by brackets. Okay, let's actually use this right now. I want to see how it looks like. So let's do it right now. We're gonna put it here. So if there is stuff in the to-dos, I'm gonna copy this. And now I'll do the following. I'm going to take the to-dos and map it. So take each to-do and return a to-do function, okay, that will render something with name equal to to-do.name. Okay. Let's now confirm it works. So, I know work. Why are you not working? Let me figure this out. I have to debug this live. This was not expected. What did I do wrong? What have I done wrong? E.prevent default. Okay, why not working? What's happening? And submit. Okay, submit. Let me close the word again. That's so weird. Why you do this? Why does React? It literally worked half an hour ago. Now it doesn't work anymore. Most time. Okay, we're pretty close to the end. Yeah, I'm mad. I'm not happy. Let's see what's going on here. Function form, name, set name, print.default, props.add name. Is there a bug that I'm not aware of? Ah, there is. Okay, React does not recognize. Aha, because this is on submit. I am done. I'm sorry, but my dumbness is. Yeah. Okay. Hey, okay, we got it. So, and ads as we want to. What issue is we want to reset the input, and we can do this by just the following. In the here, set name to empty. So hello world. I don't think I'm gonna have time to do all of the functions, edit and remove. So let's just do remove right now, okay? And see how it's done. So we're gonna be adding a button to the to-do, okay? Called, let me just do here, button called remove, okay? This button, I misspelled it. This button does not do anything. Okay? Does nothing. So let's make it do something. We're going to pass. Remember that function we made, remove. We're going to pass it. So to do name remove is just passing here, and we're going to capture it in the to do function. So on click, call this function, which essentially will call the from props dot remove, and will okay, we have to pass one other thing, the ID of the component or of the to do. So ID to do dot ID, nice, and props dot ID. Okay. So Steve, yes, but at the moment it's not uploaded. But I will work on getting it uploaded to a repository which I can send to you. So, hello world, hi. Cool, works. Okay, we have 4 minutes. I don't think I'm gonna have time for edit function, unfortunately, but I do have another. I have it already built here in here. So, hello world, edit. Oh, okay. Questions. Any questions you have about React? I am more than happy to answer them. Also, Steve, feel free to join up. Feel free to say, hey, Steve.
Hello. How's it going?
Awesome. We did well.
I want to say that I really like how easy it is to make a web application using React.
Right.
I've been doing stuff mostly in HTML and CSS and a little bit of vanilla JavaScript, and honestly, this looks much more simpler.
It's easy. All you need is a good teacher like me. I hope. I really hope I did well.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
How would you compare? I don't know if how would you compare using React with using something different like Flask or Django in Python?
Okay. So how would you combine them? Good question. What's consistently is you would need to use a thing called an API. Now let me just basically an API is like this. Let's just I need to open up something. So basically an API would be like some web some website like web.com / the actual call and the parameters. So okay, in Flask you would define your own API. So you would say, okay, in Flask I'm going to define add as a API, and it will take 2 parameters, A and B. Okay, so add A equals 1 and B equals 2. So React would send this request to Flask.
Flask,
right, and Flask would handle it and then return the result to you. So that's one way actually, and I have built sites like these where I have a React front end and then a back end like Node.js or Flask.
Oh, I see. So you use React for the front end and Flask for the back end.
Exactly.
That's basically like when you use Node.js.
I think you cut off there.
Oh, sorry. I was saying that's basically like when you use when people want to use only JavaScript for a full stack application.
Right, exactly.
They would use Node.js for the backend.
Bingo. Again, honestly, Node.js as backend is a good choice. From a computationally, it's pretty bad, but when it comes to a lot of requests, it's extremely it is extremely good in that domain.
I see. That's awesome.
Thank you.
All right. I guess we don't have room for any more questions.
I mean, yeah, yeah. I do, but like, email me if you want to. But yeah, we have like 2 minutes. Yeah, it's the end of the
It's
of the
actually
actual
the end.
workshop. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it's the end. So thank you, I guess. Thank you to yuHacks for actually allowing me to host this workshop. I thank you, appreciate that.
We thank you for hosting such an amazing workshop and for answering all the questions. Um, Everyone, if you have any question, you can always reach out to the CSHub channel on the to answer any question that you will have. And that's it from us. That was such an amazing workshop, and we'll see you guys some other time. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye.